moving beyond high-level meetings. I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So you need to help me as well by saying something. Okay? Now, as young people, we get engaged in a high-level meeting. One, either as part of our government delegation, so your government pays for you, you join the team to New York, or you go as part of civil society, where you go and you wear your t-shirts and you share flyers and you stand in the streets and rave and rant and make noise and drum at the entrance of the UN Plaza. Now, when all of that is done, I think you can go on about and do it. While all of that is done and you lose your voice from screaming and you go back to your country, then what happens? What do you do as a young person? Do you sit and wait for your government, or you have an opportunity to engage with your government to ensure that what they committed to, they actually keep to those promises?
So that's what shadow reporting is about. It's about going back to follow up on the meeting, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now shadow reporting is that when governments go to these meetings and make the commitments, which are not necessarily ambitious, when they go back after 5 years, when the declarations were made in 2001, there was a review in 2006, there was another review in 2008. Now, governments go back and they tell the UN things that they probably, I don't want to say they go and lie about what they haven't done, okay? But the last two groups actually said that is actually what happens. They go and lie about things they haven't done.
Okay.
Now that gives us a big opportunity as young people, where we live in that country where the government has lied about, right? So you go and talk to this other person and say, no, the government said ARV access is maybe 50% of the HIV population, and you go and find out and it's actually 20%. So you also get to write your own report, aside what the government wrote. Now UNAIDS has an opportunity for us, for civil society, including us as young people, to get all of these reports so we can get a true picture of what it is at the country level. Two, we have an opportunity to share these reports or discuss these reports with our national AIDS councils. Or do we all have national AIDS councils and commissions? Yeah. So we have an opportunity to have an engagement with them as young people and say, the director of the commission, this is what your report to UNGA says. But this is the same report we have also developed, and it says something quite different. So how can we have an even balance or ensure that the people actually get what they deserve as people or as young people? And so that is what shadow reporting is really about. Writing a report outside of what the government sends to the UN.
How do you move forward after writing your shadow report? What do you do with it? Do you give it to UNAIDS or do you give it to your government delegation?
So like I said, one, you can give those reports, you share one. Okay, so I'll share with you some strategies that we have in the past. When we develop these reports, we share some of these reports with UNAIDS. In 2008 and 2005, GAICA wrote about 10 shadow reports. The Global Youth Coalition on HIV wrote about 10 shadow reports on different countries. Now, we shared these reports on our websites and through the vast networks that we belong to as young people. And we also shared those reports with the various countries that the reports were written on. We gave small grants to youth organizations and young people who wrote the reports to engage with their national delegations or engage with the National AIDS Commission to discuss the outcome of those reports and look at ways of actually making sure that people get treatment, they get care, they get support for people living with HIV, and young people get engaged in the processes. Now, all of this gives us an opportunity as young people. we have an increase in numbers of activists, which I'm sure we all call ourselves that. I call myself a youth activist. Is there anyone here who doesn't call yourself that?
Activist, but not youth.
Yeah, a youth activist. You are. So we all do activism one way or the other. Fortunately, we have a lot of platforms now as young people. One platform is what we have now, that the United Nations has created for us to make inputs into the high-level meeting that is happening in June. So we need to take advantage of that when we go to our breakout sessions, make inputs, meaningful inputs, concrete inputs that can be followed up on at the high-level meeting. Secondly, there are some funds for young people. Unfortunately, people have said a lot that they care about young people, but very few of them would actually give money to support youth initiatives. One, because they say we are not accountable. Two, because they say we don't have structures in place to monitor the funding. But what basis are they saying that? What is the basis on which they are saying that? There's no empirical evidence to actually prove that.
That's a stereotype.
That is the situation. It is a stereotype. So one fund that was set up after the Oslo summit was the HIV Young Leaders Fund. I don't know if
who put in place this fund?
Now the fund, there was a summit.
Gaika.
No, there was a summit in Oslo in 2009,
Okay.
organized by the Royal Palace of Norway, and the princess, who will be here tomorrow, was actively involved in that process. Now, it was a meeting just like this one, and the outcome of that meeting, one of the outcomes, was to set up this fund.
HIV Young Leaders Fund.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was one of the outcomes of a youth meeting. So the first round of the funds gave two different categories of funding. One, to support the operations budget of youth organizations and to set up the structures that the so-called donors say that we don't have as young people. And two, to give funding to support initiatives. So we totally gave funds to 19 different organizations, all totaling about, each organization had $20,000 or $25,000 to support operations. So you get either one of those two to 19 organizations.
Diverting from the main
Yeah.
shadow reporting. What's the result after having written the shadow report? These are
These are all outcomes. You know, when you develop the shadow report, it's just a report. Okay? Now what you do with it is what makes the report meaningful.
and what did you do with it?
Yeah. So what the outcomes of what we did with the report are some of what I'm sharing with you. And I said to you earlier that one, we engage with governments, we engage with UNAIDS based on those reports. We shared those reports with a lot of other networks so people would know what exactly the situation is at the various countries that are available. Is that okay?
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, the other thing that we learned throughout this shadow reporting process was access.
Excuse me. Last thing, the shadow report, does it concern only youth or civil society in general?
Anybody can write a shadow report.
Do you have a template for it?
There are templates which I can share with you. Gaika developed templates that I can share with you. We developed a toolkit as well.
Toolkit.
Yeah, a toolkit for young people to write shadow reports, which I can share with you, but through the email. Unfortunately, I don't have that here. I can share with you. Yeah.